Absolutely. The started playing guitar actually when I was 7, and to kind of get you up to speed today in today's day and age in a minute. But I started playing at the age of 7. I was also always fascinated with music. Every time my dad would take us out, I have a brother and sister. Every time my dad would take us out to a store, I'd head over to the music department and check out all the albums and instruments if there were any. And it was one Saturday afternoon that we went to the store, and they had an instrument section, and there was this classical guitar on the wall. And I just stood there in complete awe. And so, to make a long story short, I left with that guitar, thanks to Dad, and was banging on it all the way home in the car. Came home, went to school the following school day. It was a Monday. And I went to, this little 7-year-old kid, went to the library, and I checked out every single music book that I could get my hands on. I mean, I literally walked out of school that day with both hands filled with these hardcover music books. So anyway, I took a few lessons at first, learned how to tune the guitar, learned some basic sight reading and notes, and I've been playing ever since, So there were times during my developmental years, high school, a little bit after high school, that I would be practicing and studying up to 18 hours a day. And that's not exaggerating. It's 18 hours a day. So I would then sleep, 4 hours, a few hours, and then I'd wake up and do it again. I had a very supportive father, okay? And not only would I be practicing, I would practice my instrument with the metronome diligently and with the utmost discipline. Okay? I had a drill sergeant for growing up as a father, and so to speak. So anyway, but not only did I spend time practicing, that time was equally divided with my interest in composition. So I had a very extreme interest early on with composition. And so I would, all my life and to this day, I would try to balance the art of, physical performance skills on the guitar, my main instrument, along with, studying compositional skills and techniques as well, too. A lot of guitar players, when they speak of techniques, I have found in my experience from teaching thousands of people around the world, that most of the time they're referring to some sort of physical mechanic technique, whether it be alternate picking, sweep picking, this and that. But rarely is it about the depth of music. Hey, George, I found this really cool modulation technique where I could, take a diminished 7th chord and lower any one of the 4 notes, and which will yield a dominant 7th shape, and in turn I could actually use that as an augmented 6th or a secondary augmented 6th in another key and modulate that way. Really cool technique. So those are the kind of things that I was mainly fascinated with, not so much the physical mechanics of the guitar. And don't get me wrong, I would practice with the metronome every single day. Okay, and I would push the limits of my physical ability. Not at all because I wanted to be fast. I have no fascination with being fast, no interest at all. Okay, playing at any tempo is where it's at. It doesn't matter if it's fast or slow. Gauging somebody's skill level on the speed that they can do with some sort of familiar pattern is of no interest to me. Okay, so it's I practice so I could acquire good skill and feel like I could play what I wanted to play when I was writing. Okay, so anyway, and I've been doing that up until this day, trying to balance the art of composition with guitar performance. So anyway, went through years of playing in bands, throughout high school and after high school. And I was in this band called Prodigy, and we had some interest from Mike Barney from Shrapnel Records.
Yes.
And okay. And so we had some interest there, and that was way before I actually got signed. Okay. And I would be writing all this music, and then we'd have a really difficult time I'd have a difficult time getting the rest of the band, in particular the lead singer, to write as quickly and as efficiently as I was, so we could get the material off the mic, and keep his interest and get signed and all that good stuff. So anyway, out of frustration, it was, we still had the band Prodigy, and we had this at a rehearsal studio. My brother, who also plays guitar and keyboards, he left his Apple computer over there. This was like in the early 90s. And, I was like, so I took it home and I checked it out, and I discovered that I can compose on the computer and, record the drum parts. And I was recording with a drum machine at that point, really, cheesy sounding drum machines of the 90s and all that, and recording onto 4 tracks and 8 tracks. But on the computer, it was so much more efficient, hard disk recording. I could play all these tracks. And I learned that I didn't need to deal with all the whining of all these guys. Okay? So anyway, I left the band and I focused on composing Turn of the Millennium. And I actually did that, I mentioned computer, but I actually did that just with a piece of paper and a pencil, Turn of the Millennium, without even a guitar. I just, I remember sitting out back in my condominium I had at the time, and I would sit out back in the chair, a nice, beautiful sunny day, and I would just write, just get creative. Okay. And also, I remember writing Rip to Shreds. That's on Turn of the Millennium, writing Rip to Shreds in a car with my girlfriend traveling across the United States. So anyway, I spent about a year writing and getting up to speed with, recording on a computer and all that. And then I sent Mike Marney, what I had been working on, which was the complete album Turn of the Millennium. And within a week's time, he called me back, totally enthusiastic and ecstatic, and just and then at that point, I was talking to him on the phone. He called me and asked me if I'd be interested in joining UFO and also doing some solo albums. And I was like, well, I'll have to get back to you about that, Mike. Let me think about that. No, I was like, absolutely, man. So I was totally gung-ho. I was a huge UFO fan growing up. So anyway, got signed him to Shrapnel in the mid-'90s, okay? And shortly after getting signed, he was flying me out to California. I'm a Chicago guy. He was flying me out to California to meet all these, phenomenal musicians that I had only heard about, okay? And some of those musicians were the guys in UFO. So anyway, so we had some rehearsals, a bunch of rehearsals with UFO, and then I was also in the downtime with that, working on drum tracks and other tracks for my solo album, Turn of the Millennium. So, and then after that, word got out, and everybody was calling me to play on their album, And I remember going back home, after being out at the Shrapnel camp, coming back home, and days or a couple of weeks later, maybe Mike Barney would call again. My girlfriend would answer the phone, and I remember one time she told me that he said, "Yeah, it's like you probably don't like me that much because every time I call, your boyfriend's on a red-eye flight out to California days later." So anyway, but Mike was calling me a lot to play on different people's albums, and a lot of them I did. Some of them, or I remember one in particular I did not play on. But anyway, so 25 albums later, here I am. So I've done some solo albums and played on an onslaught of other people's albums as well too. And I got to the point where people were asking me to play on their albums, and I'm like, man, I don't want to just be that guy. I want to focus on my music. I love composing. I love playing guitar, and I need that time. Okay, I've actually, people ask me, it's like, George, man, why aren't you playing out? I'd love to see you play. And as much as I love playing, I just have this innate, nonstop, relentless drive to create. Okay, right now I'm looking at my computer right now, and I've got 5 albums on my desktop in my dock. I'm a Mac guy, so in my dock, I've got 7, not 5, but 7 albums done. Okay, and so I love being creative and writing, and it's a daily activity for me, along with teaching. So, but anyway, so that's kind of in a nutshell, how I started and up to this, to today.
When you went from Turn of the Millennium to Mind Over Matter, as you progressed with these records, how did you evolve as a player over time? To this day, I'm always evolving. I notice that I'm like, man, I play so differently now. It's like, I can sit here and nitpick it apart and stuff and explain some details, but it's different, and in a good way, actually. So, in a good way. But how I evolve, I don't know if I have an exact answer for that, but I suppose, my evolution on guitar, comes from also, the maturity of playing for so long and also continuing to explore, feeling, the need, not the real need, but the desire, like to explore these unheard of sounds, okay? I mean, to me, I don't care who's on what bandwagon, okay? I want to write some music that's fresh sounding to me, and I don't, without even putting in an effort, okay? So when I did Eternal Millennium, I remember being at the Shrapnel camp, I was leaving Mike Marty's house, and Eternal Millennium, there's a lot going on, there's all these meters and, all kinds of stuff going on, a million notes flying at you, okay? And Mike's like, as I was leaving the Shrapnel camp, he's like, why don't we do something a little bit more accessible, I'm like, sure, cool, yeah, that's cool. And so I went home, and in about a week or two or something like that, I wrote Mind Over Matter. So I sent him that. It was real straight ahead. Kind of, I knew it was kind of like similar in certain aspects of what he had released. The typical rhythms, the 16th note double bass rhythms, the triplet, all the real kind of, in my opinion, very stereotypical, but a little bit more approachable, for people that really like that kind of stuff, and that's cool. So, to me, it wasn't really evolving from that. It's almost backwards in a way, So to me, the modern aspects of music, polymeters, all kinds of rhythmic modulations, writing with modern melodic and harmonic techniques, polymetrical ideas. If I didn't mention that, these are all very modern and ideas that can create a very futuristic soundscape, opposed to material, and techniques that have been used for hundreds of years throughout the common practice era. And I've studied that stuff for decades, and I love it very much. I love old school and I love new school. But it's the modern stuff that is what I see progression in. So anyway, going from Eternal Millennium to Mind Over Matter, it was kind of going back to the traditional old school stuff. And a lot of people, I love it too. I love that old school stuff. But apparently a lot of people like that, the Airborne and Fast and Furious and that kind of thing. So there's always people that, that's the beauty of music. There's hopefully something that strikes somebody and catches their, their emotions or attention or whatever, however you want to put it. Not everything is for everybody. Okay. So there's a school of camp that's like, man, I wish George would do more like, that old neoclassical. And then there's people that are like, man, I want George to do more of that futuristic stuff. So, and that's beautiful. I appreciate all that. And, at the end of the day, I'm going to do what I want to do. Okay. And, I do it for me, and it's gotta be fun for me, So, yeah.
Mind Over Matter, I think is more neoclassical in nature. I know you don't probably like to put, terms.
Yeah, whatever, sure. Yeah.
And I know you said that most of that album was composed note for note on manuscript paper. I think.
Yes.
When you recorded that, did you have anything in mind that you were going to keep it the neoclassical, or were you wanting, because you have more of a full round music? You produce like an orchestra almost. When I listen to you, you've got so many different sounds that most guitar players today, and I'm not afraid to say it, wouldn't even know what to do with it. I'm sorry. I just said Mind Over Matter had that more neoclassical in nature.
Totally.
And were you thinking of going to like the last track? Had more of a have a full plate of different types of sounds. Were you trying to keep it?
Yeah, absolutely, full plate of sounds. Yeah, that last track, the orchestral suite, that's something. I still have the original manuscript for that, and I definitely approached it with the neoclassical style in mind. Absolutely, like I said, the Eternal Millennium. That's most of that album is more progressive, future moving sort of style. Okay, so Mind Over Matter, I kept the rhythms a lot simpler, the harmonies, the underlying harmonic bed.
and the melodic content more in the classical.